Suggesting the call and follow-ups. These either make or break the sale. This is a key inflection point in the sales process, and you want to make sure you get it right. There are 4 scenarios in which you can follow someone up and when it's actually deemed a reasonable time to follow them up in the sales process. I will run you through these 4 scenarios and also how to propose the call so they don't ghost you and they don't leave you undelivered. To suggest the call, there are a few ways of doing it. One of the ways which I've seen work is proposing the call but with social proof. So an example of this might be, yeah, I get that. I actually helped Name, who's also in a role like you, achieve dream result in X time. Would you be open to hopping on a 20-minute call to see if I might be able to help you achieve their dream desire? By linking it to an outcome, they're incentivized to hop on the call with you because they want the outcome. So if you can do that and you can show proof that you are able to do that, the percentage likelihood that they will hop on the call is significantly increased. If you don't have social proof and you're quite near the beginning, that's fine. You can say, would you be open to hopping on a call so I can better understand your situation and suggest what I might recommend for it? When it comes to proposing the call, typically I'd want to suggest the timing of that call, whether that's half an hour, whether that's 45 minutes, but the less amount of time that you can propose the call for, the better. These are busy people. Typically, you're going to be selling to decision makers. You want to keep the call as minimal as possible, unless you know how to do a call really, really well and you know how to provide value throughout the call to incentivize them to stay on. If not, and you just want to do a discovery call, keep it short and sweet. In the last episode, I went through how to qualify a prospect properly and how to actually get the information necessary to decide whether you can actually help them. At the beginning of that process, I recommended saying, mind if I ask a couple of questions before potentially logging in a chat. That way it pre-frames the chat so that they know at the end, the idea is to book in a call. If you did that earlier in the qualifying sequence, then you could say, honestly, I know this I can help you with. I don't want to bore you with any more questions. Let's talk on a quick call and I can show you how it could work. Simple as that. If you didn't preface the chat, you can say, would you be able to hop on a 20-minute chat to explore if I might be able to help you? The golden rule: match the call pitch intensity to the trust level in previous framing. You've got to judge when it's time to propose that call. Typically, you want to be at the highest trust or at the point where they're on this emotional high. They're bought in on what you do. They're excited. They want to see if you can actually help them. That's when you propose the call. Because if you propose it too early, they'll be at a point where they're not really sure about your solution yet. And so they're very unlikely to hop on a call with you. It's just about increasing the percentage likelihood that they will hop on the call with you and timing it at the right time. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen CEOs and setters make is the prospect will say yes to the call that they've pitched and then they send them a calendar link and then they ghost. Because there's this thing called the paradox of choice. If you give them too many options, they're very likely not to make an option at all. It's like when you go on Netflix and there's all these films that you could watch, and you keep scrolling, and then you never make a decision on what actually to watch. It's the same with the calendar link, which is why instead you can propose 2 times. You say, would 11:30 a.m. tomorrow or 4 p.m. on Thursday work best for you? It's a this or that question. Just for simplicity, it keeps it easy for them. If they then say neither of those times works, then you can drop the calendar link. But there are a few ways that you want to be able to structure your calendar link to make sure they actually book. One of these is don't do more than 3 to 4 days in advance on the calendar. The reason is, when you're proposing the call, they're on the emotional high. They're at this point where they want your solution the most. And so when you give them a calendar link and they can book in 2 weeks, by that point, they've lost the emotional intensity, they've lost the trust, it's all gone down. And so when it comes to selling to them on that call, it won't work. They've lost that kind of buy-in phase in which they're in at this moment. So 3 to 4 days, absolute max, is what you want to have in advance on the calendar. The other tip is with the times that they can actually book, you want them to be in 5 minutes. So incremental 5-minute blocks in between each time. The reason is, if this is a busy person, they want to open your calendar and go, oh, wow, it's every 5 minutes. Okay, I can just book in at this time. Cool. It's just about making it simple for them. And that in itself is one of the highest levers that I've seen to actually increase booking a call percentage chance, the actual chance of booking the call with them. The reason is, the golden rule is, the longer they wait to have that call, the less likely they'll show. This is all about increasing the show rate and also increasing the close rate as well. That's about suggesting the call. That's a follow-on from last episode. Now I want to move on to follow-ups and how to actually do them properly and not make the mistake that I've seen a lot of people make. The biggest mistake that I've seen people make is they refer to it as a follow-up. It should actually be called a value sequence. You're giving them value as you follow up. The reason is, say I had a lead magnet or a resource that they are interested in, and I follow up with that, they're consuming something which increases what's called their TOC. their time on content. By increasing their time on content, again, the percentage likelihood chance of them replying and actually being interested is significantly increased. That's what we're aiming for. The other mistake that I've seen, especially when following up, is they're boring follow-ups. They don't provide any value. They're typically one sentence long, and it's just, why would that work? I don't know why people send them. We've all received the follow-up like, hey, did you get a chance to look at this? The point of a value sequence and the point of actually doing follow-ups properly is you want to remove all the patterns and the kind of codes that are associated with sales. If I can say the most bizarre follow-up possible, someone will be like, hey, I've never seen that one before, and they're more likely to reply. It's just about breaking this belief in their mind that they can never be followed up or that they won't reply. That's the idea. There are 4 scenarios for following up, and I'm going to walk you through those 4 scenarios and when to actually use them. Scenario 1 is they haven't replied in a while. Now, this is when you've had a conversation, there's a bit of back and forth, but then they stop. They don't reply. What you want to do in that situation is give value. So an example would be, hey name, I was just on a call with one of my clients, client name, who was also in insert niche or industry. They've been really struggling with insert pain prospect mentioned. And I remember it's something you mentioned too. Then you have 2 options, option A or option B. Option A is, so I spent the next hour with him walking through how to fix the problem. Would you like me to send you through the recording? The other option is I actually hopped off the call and I spent the next 2 hours creating a resource for them to use to help. Would you like me to shoot them through? Now, the reason you're not sending the value immediately is because you just want them to reply. That is the sole purpose of a follow-up. Getting them to reply or a value sequence. The only time that you will send the value in the actual follow-up is when they haven't replied in maybe 2 to 3 follow-ups. That's when you actually send them the value for them to consume. It's just finding the easiest and fastest way to actually get them to reply. Scenario 2 is you haven't identified their pain point yet. So one that I've seen works quite well is, hey name, I've just spent this week filming a new training resource by the email course, whatever it is, focusing on different areas of insert niche. What are you currently focusing on at the moment? I can see which one is the most relevant. So that way it makes them feel a bit special. They're like, oh, hang on, they're actually thinking about this. They're going to give me something relevant to my situation. Because the thing that the prospect is asking constantly throughout the entire sales process is, how can you help me specifically? So you want to solve that immediately and as quickly as possible. By doing it this way, it invites them back to the conversation without pressure and gives them a reason to respond based on their own priorities. So that's a really good way of doing it. Scenario 3 is they ghost mid-conversation. Start with a pattern interrupt to reopen the loop. Name, question mark, or still with me, name, question mark. This is essentially you're having a nice back and forth conversation, whether that's on the DMs, whether that's on WhatsApp, whatever it is, and then they just stop for whatever reason. You have the leverage to just say, name, you still with me? Because if you're having a nice conversation, it's weird for someone, like if you were in person at a networking event, it's weird that you would be having exchange for lots and lots of maybe a couple of minutes, and then they just go, and they don't reply. That's what it's like on text message. You want it to just be like a conversation. So I just be like, hello? That's what you're doing here. If they don't reply after that, after 10 to 15 minutes, then follow up with, I'm not sure what happened, but I presume something came up or you got distracted. That's totally sweet. Let me know when is a better time to finish off the questions or finish off whatever you were talking about. It's just a no pressure way. And then they get back and go, oh, that's really appreciative. I can do this time at this time. Because the thing is, people are busy. Things get in the way. That's going to happen. You just got to make sure that you're using the right scenario at the right time. And remember, there is no magical follow-up template. This is purely baselines to give you an example of something which feels more personalized and makes them feel more special. You'll be able to infer from the conversation you've had what actually might work for them. The 3 points that you want to ensure are in every single one of your follow-ups is follow up with value, make it personal, and keep testing it until it works. Those are the 3 things. Focus on that and you'll find a winning formula, something that works consistently and you can keep repeating and using. Scenario 4 is to jolt the prospect's attention to using something light, offbeat, or oddly personal, then seamlessly segue back into what you're doing, whether that's a call to action to a call booking, whatever it is. You will use this scenario when you've already had a previous touch point, they've ghosted or gone cold, you want to re-engage playfully without pressure. So an example script, which works, by the way, I have used this and it has worked multiple times over, is, you won't believe it, but I took my dog for a walk this evening with no dog bags. Lucky I had a tissue in my pocket. Lol, what a day. Anyway, and then refer back to what you just asked them. That sounds crazy, I know, but imagine receiving that. It's so bizarre that it kind of piques your attention and it breaks all patterns which are associated with sales. Who is going to send that? Not many people. So when someone does receive that, they go, oh, that's very strange, and then they reply. That's the whole point. Another one that I saw works quite well is I just got yelled at by my wife because I didn't clean the house before the cleaner came over. Thought I escaped it when I moved out of home. Anyway, refer back to what you were just talking about. It's just a really nice way to do a pattern interrupt and for them to go, what the hell? That's a weird one. So that's the whole idea behind it. The other pattern interrupt that I've seen is if the medium in which you're communicating on is texting, just send a voice note. It's more personalized. It kind of breaks the patterns of a usual conversation, and it's just something unique. It's something different. So the idea of scenario 4 is just a pattern interrupt. I have seen the voice notes actually work really, really well. And if you're someone who's quite confident, you're quite outgoing, send a voice note. It's more personal and they're more likely to listen to it as well. Because again, it's piquing curiosity. Oh, they sent me a voice note. I wonder what they said. And the best that I've seen, and something which takes more time, which is why these sometimes are better, but it works, is you send a voice note saying, hey, I was just looking at your profile or whatever it is. I actually just filmed you a Loom for about 5 minutes to tell you exactly how we could potentially help. And then you just send them a Loom that they can watch. That also works. But again, it's just a pattern interrupt. It's something so uniquely different to what they usually receive that they're more likely to reply. That is proper follow-ups and proper value sequences, plus how to suggest the call properly. That is it. It seems simple, but it's hard to execute. So test it, find what works the best, use those as a baseline, and get an understanding of what a good follow-up looks like. The more and more you do, the better you'll get. And as my favorite person called Alex Mosley says, volume negates luck. So do as much as possible and you'll find a follow-up which works.